For decades, the disappearance of Flight 713 remained a chilling enigma. It was a blank space in aviation history, a void over the vast Atlantic. Now, after nearly 50 years, the truth has finally emerged. It was a truth far stranger than any mechanical failure or human error. On November 12, 1978, Flight 713, a cargo plane, lifted off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Its destination, San Juan, Puerto Rico. This was a routine flight, carrying 3 experienced crew members and a special classified payload. The pilot was Captain Arthur Jennings. His co-pilot was Rebecca "Becky" Thorne, a petite woman in her early 30s. The flight engineer was Danny Miller, a man barely out of his 20s. Approximately 2 hours into its journey, somewhere over the deep waters of the Bermuda Triangle, the transponder signal of Flight 713 vanished. The radar blimp simply winked out. No distress call, no warning, just silence. The subsequent search operation was massive. For weeks, ships and planes combed the ocean, but found nothing. Not a single piece of wreckage, no oil slick, no personal effects. It was as if the plane and everyone on board had simply ceased to exist. This utter lack of trace only deepened the fear and questions. It left a void where answers should have been. The families were left with an aching silence, a daily reminder of what was taken. The aviation world had no precedence for such a clean disappearance. Every theory, every hypothesis ended in a frustrated dead end. The official report concluded with, quote, "disappearance without a trace," a euphemism for "we have no idea." But in the quiet corners of the internet, it began with whispers, then became a collective obsession. A story exchanged online about a forgotten primal force. This was not a story of mechanical failure or a crash or even an enemy action. It was something else entirely, something that tapped into something unknown. The story spoke of a primordial entity set to exist in the liminal spaces between realities. It was described as having an insatiable hunger, not for physical matter, but for existence itself. It consumed objects, including their very history, their potential, their place in the collective memory. When it fed, it left nothing behind. The rules of this entity were unclear, making the fear more potent. The idea was that some things simply vanished. They were unmade. This concept, terrifying in its finality, resonated with the inexplicable emptiness left by Flight 713. This seemingly absurd theory gained an unexpected traction last month. A reclusive former air traffic controller, Mr. Elias Vance, came forward. Mr. Vance, now in his late 70s, is a slender man whose frame seems to carry the weight of decades.
"I was on duty that night. The air was thick with the usual static, the hum of the equipment, the distant chatter from other flights. But then it changed. I heard a sound, not on the comms, not through the radio, but in my headset, as if it was inside my head. A ripping sound, like tear in heavy fabric, but impossibly loud, deafening even. It wasn't the crackle of interference or the distant roar of a jet engine. It was a sound of rending, of something coming apart at its very seams. Then, an absolute silence. Not static, not interference, just nothing. It wasn't equipment failure. It was too absolute, too final. It was like the air itself had been sucked out of the world. I tried to report it, but what do you say? I heard the fabric of reality tear? They would have locked me up.
Vance's revelation, however, was not the full solution. The crucial piece came from a newly declassified government report unearthed by an anonymous online collective. The report detailed an obscure Cold War project known as Project Kronos. This unexpected development provided the answers to long-standing questions, shifting the entire narrative. Project Kronos aimed to develop a temporal displacement device capable of brief, localized teleportation. The classified payload on Flight 73 was a functional prototype. During testing, they had inadvertently created a temporal unstable tear in spacetime. This tear was what Mr. Vance heard. This tear was the consuming presence entry point. The device, intended for a different purpose, accidentally breached a barrier that should have remained intact. The very technology meant to give an advantage became the catalyst for an unforeseen horror. Former scientists involved in Project Kronos, Dr. Melissa Sharma, offered a chilling confirmation.
We knew the theoretical risks. The mathematical models suggested extreme instability, but the potential gains were considered worth it. We didn't understand the nature of what we were interfacing with. It wasn't just a tear in space-time, a simple anomaly. It was a doorway to something that existed only to consume, not to destroy in the conventional sense. The plane wasn't destroyed, it was unmade. Every molecule, every memory simply erased from this dimension. Imagine a photograph being pulled from an album, not just cut, but the very paper it was printed on ceasing to exist. There was no coming back from that. No trace, no resolution. We thought we were pushing the boundaries of physics. We opened a gate to something far older, far more fundamental. We simply provided the means for it to manifest. The implications of what we unleashed, they are beyond comprehension. It was a failure of our imagination to grasp true emptiness.
The mystery of Flight 713 is now solved. The mundane explanation of mechanical failure or a crash is discarded. The truth is far more unsettling. The plane, its crew, and its classified cargo were not lost. They were simply gone, taken by an entity from beyond our comprehension, leaving behind only a silent, gaping hole in reality. The absence of a body is not always a lack of evidence, but sometimes the evidence itself. This story serves as a chilling reminder that some scientific endeavors can lead to terrifying, unforeseen consequences, opening doors that perhaps should remain shut.